Okay, we are recording. So a couple of virtual meeting reminders since we are not in person tonight. If we could have everyone start muted and videos off, that just helps with our internet connection and make sure that there's no lags in our presentation. If you have questions at any point in this presentation, please type them into the Zoom chat. We will have someone monitoring that and we can stop as we need to answer questions. But we'll also have time at the end for open discussion and questions. And then just a couple of reminders of where those buttons are. The mute and the video are in the bottom left-hand corner. So if everyone could go ahead and mute themselves. The chat's right in the middle. And then if you want to raise your hand, if you press the little reactions button, it'll give you that option and we can call on you. So today's presentation, as well as all the questions that we're going to ask you, will be available, like Ana Claudia said, online as a survey for 6 weeks after today's date. So you can visit this website here at the denvergov.org/park projects to complete the survey, and please encourage other people to do so as well. And then this is also where you can stay up to date on this project. So it will be updated as we go on. Today, we're going to use Mentimeter to ask questions and poll everybody. So just a couple of things. Mentimeter is an online software. It's only meant for answering questions. So continue to follow along on the screen that you are on and you're looking at right now for all the information of today's presentation. But to participate, if you want to go to www.mentee.com and use code 27640642, that'll get you logged in and ready to answer some of our polling questions. And so just a couple of tips with Mentee. It's easier if you are able to use a second device to do this. So if you're on a computer, if you can use a cell phone or maybe a tablet, but you can also start a new tab in your internet browser. And then if you aren't able to use Mentee for whatever reason, just type your answers into the chat box, into the Zoom chat box, and we can get them that way. So I think at this point, we were going to stop and have our translator just explain that in Spanish because that was a lot of information. So I'll let her rock and roll.
Could you please go to the other slide so I can repeat everything you said since the beginning?
Sure.
Thank you. Hola, muy buenas tardes a todos. Todos los participantes tienen la opción, por favor, de apagar su micrófono y también de tener su video apagado. Les pedimos que hagan esto para que nos ayude con los servicios de internet. Si pueden ver en las fotografías que están abajo, ahí indica en rojo cómo pueden apagar su micrófono. Cuando dice mute, quiere decir que está apagado y está la camarita del video ahí donde se puede apagar. Usted puede participar escribiendo sus preguntas en el área del chat. Ahí puede escribir sus preguntas y también al final va a haber una oportunidad para que se hagan más preguntas. Escriba sus preguntas y comentarios, como le dije, en el recuadro de abajo en el chat en cualquier momento durante la presentación y al final tendremos una discusión abierta y tiempo para preguntas y respuestas. Favor de utilizar la opción de levantar la mano y lo llamaremos si tiene alguna pregunta. Esta opción de levantar la mano la puede ver abajo en su pantalla a la mano derecha. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Esta presentación, así como las preguntas que estamos formulando hoy, estarán disponibles como encuesta en línea durante 6 semanas después del día de hoy. Favor de visitar la página que puede ver ahorita, que es denvergov.org/park projects para llenar la encuesta y animar a otros a hacerlo también. Además, puede mantenerse al día sobre el proyecto visitando esta página de internet. Next, please. Okay, thank you. Hoy también estaremos usando Mentimeter para hacer preguntas y sondear a la audiencia. Mentimeter es solo para responder preguntas, así que le agradecemos nos siga en Zoom, como estamos ahorita en esta pantalla, para la presentación e información del día de hoy. Para participar en Mentimeter puede ir a la página www.mentee.com y utilice el código 276408642. Repito, el código es 276406, perdón, 27640642. El consejo que se le da es más fácil responder a las preguntas de Mentimeter utilizando un teléfono celular o un segundo aparato electrónico, pero también puede responder preguntas si inicia una nueva pestaña en su navegador de Internet. Si no puede utilizar Menti, puede escribir sus respuestas en el recuadro del chat.
Thank you. So at this point, we're going to continue with the presentation in English, and then we'll check back in at the end with our translator. So let's test out Mentee and make sure that it's working for everyone and just kind of get a sense for who's on the phone. So if you guys want to let us know what your relationship to Ruby Hill is, that would be awesome. So either you live nearby, you work nearby, you visit the park for recreation or events, or maybe another reason. Okay, cool. Lots of nearby residents. Awesome. So we have a good mix of people on the phone. Love it. Okay. Is everyone on the phone? We're not calling people out. We just seeing who's on the phone. If we have any kids, maybe. And if you have kids with you at home, feel free to bring them over to the computer. There are there's a lot of programming for children as part of this design.
Ooh, Grandma. Grandma.
I hear a kid.
Grandma.
All right. How do you guys currently use the park? For the BMX park, the community garden, the playground, the Levitt Pavilion, maybe just passive recreation, walking, hanging out, winter rail yard, or maybe use it in another way. Results are coming in. Oh, we have a lot of different uses. In the chat, we have playground and pavilion use. Awesome. Cool, and then our last question to test this Mentimeter is, have you participated in engagement events for Ruby Hill before? Cool, thank you for coming back. You 8, 9 people, 11 people, that's awesome. Cool, so you guys a lot of you are gonna be familiar with some of this, but for those of you who are new, thank you for joining us today. Here's what you can expect. We're gonna go through project history and work done to date that we've done for this project so far. Then we're gonna walk you through our concept plan and some of the program elements, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and discussion. So just to introduce our team to you, again, I'm Sarah Bonnequist. I'm the project manager from Design Workshop. We are the lead design consultant team. Also on the phone, we have Rob Berg. He's our principal at Design Workshop, and Alex Nuffer. He's going to be our project designer. And then we have this whole awesome team of other design consultants, architects, and engineers. You can see on the screen, obviously the city of Denver, and of course, all of you. And then our team from the city, I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves if they want.
Good evening, everyone. I am Jesus Arantia. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're really excited to start this project, and we're glad that you were able to join us for tonight's meeting. And I'll let both Ana Claudia and Jennifer introduce themselves. Ana
Claudia might have had to step away, but we've also got Jennifer Olson on the on the call. She's the project manager from Parks and Rec. So let's just orient ourselves to where we are in the process of this project. Back in the fall of 2019, we had concept phase. So we had a community engagement event and we went through a concept and design effort. And before we take that concept and make it a reality and start to formalize the concept into construction documents, we wanted to check back in with you guys because it had been a while. So we are at workshop number 1. Thank you for being here. We're going to take the information that we get from you guys tonight, and we're going to fold that into our concept plan and make some revisions. And then we're going to touch base with you after that. So we're going to have 2 more workshops, one in early 22 and another one in summer 2022 before finishing up construction documents in early 2023. Our vision for this project is that Ruby Hill Phase 3 will fold into the existing fabric of the park while also becoming an iconic place for the city of Denver and the surrounding neighborhoods. We hope that this project will underscore the investment that the city is making in the neighborhood and the park and its commitment to equal access to parks and open space, as well as working towards diverse programming that reflects the spirit of Ruby Hill, Denver, and Colorado. Couple of goals that we have for this project. We want to really honor the neighborhood and amplify its voice in the design process by providing tailored amenities for the community. So thank you again for being here. We want to encourage healthy and active lifestyles with alternate modes of transportation, bike infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure. We want to continue that Colorado tradition of outdoor experiences and provide opportunities for everyone to participate in and learn about bike and snow related activities. And we want to embrace seasonality and activate this park every single day of the year. So let's get into the park just to orient us. So on this graphic that you're seeing, north is to the right, the South Platte River is to the east, it's on the bottom here. And so our site is about 4 acres located in the middle northeast area, kind of sandwiched in between the playground / community garden and the picnic pavilion. And so this site was selected for a number of reasons. It's one of the only sort of larger flat areas of the park that would be conducive to the kinds of amenities that we're proposing. And then its proximity to the existing rail yard, the winter rail yard, was considered a huge benefit and would allow us to really build off of that existing park feature. A little bit of park history. There was a master plan completed in 2013, and this outlined some really major improvements for Ruby Hill Park, and a lot of them have been implemented already. So the playground expansion has been built, the mountain bike BMX park has been built, Levitt Pavilion, the amphitheater has been built, some of the native gardens and proposed multi-use trails. If everyone could just remember to keep yourselves muted during this. And so now we're gonna zoom in to this area, our project area. And so just wanted to go over some of the things in our area that were from the original master plan. The splash pad, number 1, the sports courts labeled as number 2, the picnic areas labeled as number 3, Great Lawn labeled as number 4. So we're keeping all of these things from the original master plan, but we're also providing some additional amenities. So labeled as number 6, a community center and a gear library, which we'll get into in a little bit. Labeled as, I'm sorry, that was labeled as number 5. Labeled as number 6, a bike playground, beginner bike course. And then number 7, we're re-examining this parking lot that was proposed in the master plan and making sure that we are providing an adequately sized, right-sized parking lot for the uses that are in this space. So like I mentioned before, we did a community engagement event as part of the concept phase. It was really fun. Maybe some of you were there. We set up an impromptu bike course right in the area where we're proposing our bike playground, and Denver Bike Parks brought in their trailer full of bikes and skateboards, and helmets, of course, and the kids were able to ride around. We also had this open house style setup where we had the concept plan presented nice and big and some character imagery, and we were able to talk to people about what they liked, what they didn't like, and we got some really great input from that. So one of the things we heard was that there's too much parking in this area, and so maybe we can try to figure out a way to reduce the amount of parking and all of that sort of fast driving and loud noises that go along with cars and parking lots for those neighbors who are directly adjacent to the park. We got some feedback to add to a walking loop where we could, to include flexible open lawn space, to determine the best sports courts for the community. So we're showing, the master plan was showing 2 basketball courts, but maybe that's not right. Maybe that's not what the community wants. And then that the building that we're proposing should be multifunctional and provide a space for the community. So all of this input went into our final concept plan. So what I'm going to do is run us through this concept plan, and then we're going to dive into a 3D model just to get a better feel for what these things actually look like. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. So just to, again, orient us, north is going to be to the right. We've got the existing community garden in the upper left-hand, existing parking lot, existing playground, existing rail yard, and then on the bottom right-hand side of the screen is some of the existing parking lot to the picnic pavilion. So in this area here, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but we've got the community center and gear library. So this is meant to be a really open air building. Well, it will have two enclosed spaces with bathrooms, storage, a community space, gathering space, some offices, and a gear library. So the gear library would house all of the equipment that the city has: bikes, skateboards, other kinds of wheels, snowboards, skis, and people will be able to come and rent these like they would a library book, and then use them right here on the site. There is also in front and on either side of that community building is some open plaza area, which is also for community use for maybe pop-up events, farmers markets, festivals, whatever. We've also got a bike playground. So this is really meant to be, kind of fill in that missing gap for what's in the park now. We've got this super awesome BMX bike course, but it's kind of meant for intermediate to advanced bikers. I know I am not ready for that yet personally. So this bike playground is really for kids who are just learning how to ride a bike, and then they can maybe graduate to that BMX course afterwards. So this bike playground would feature different kinds of paving materials, obstacles, tunnels, hills, and also crossings to just get kids used to things that they would encounter while riding their bike or rolling around. We've also got some picnic areas. So those are formalized hardscape areas with a variety of seating spaces. We've got sports courts. So right now we're showing basketball and volleyball, but again, looking to you to see if that's the right thing to put there. We've got a great lawn area, so just some nice flat, open, grassy space. We've got a pedestrian promenade that sort of connects these two parts of the park, from the picnic pavilion parking to the existing playground and community center. We've got a splash pad or a water play area. And then we're redesigning this parking lot to the top of this plan. And so with the parking lot, I will just say we're nothing, and with this plan in general, nothing set in stone. So let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts. I am now going to hand it over to Alex, and he is going to walk us through the 3D model so we can start to see what some of these spaces actually look like. And I will say, as I'm letting him share his screen here. So what you're gonna see is the full menu of options for this park. And so we're really interested to hear what you guys think about these elements, because they're gonna help us to prioritize in the future. So with that, All
right.
Take it away.
Can you hear me and see my screen?
We can.
Okay, great. So right now we're looking at a bird's eye view of the project site, and we'll be flying through this model and looking at the various programmed areas that our team has designed here. So going down to the entry plaza and drop-off zone. Here is the entry plaza where we can see the bike playground and community center in the background. This space can be programmed for, what Sarah was saying, for different neighborhood events, festivals, spill out events from the community center, or various pop-up events. So in all these views, I'm going to be panning from left to right, so you can get a good idea of how the space feels. So going on to where the existing rail yard is, we got a view of the bike playground over here, and a view of the community center, which houses the gear library, bathrooms, and storage, and can also be used for various community events or meetings. We're going to fly over to the picnic areas. So here we have some shaded and paved picnic areas with various kinds of seating, which can be used for various gatherings of all sizes. Going over to the sports courts now. So we've dedicated this area for active play sports courts and have included a basketball court here and a volleyball court. However, we would like your input on whether you think these are the right sports programs or if you think it should be something else. So please, if you have an opinion on whether this should be, say, a tennis court or a pickleball court or any type of court, please put your answer in the chat box or wait till the discussion at the end of our presentation. Yeah, you can see the courts here and the picnic areas where we just came from. And then moving on to the splash pad. So the splash pad, you can see we placed different interactive water features. Just a disclaimer, these elements you're seeing are just placeholders, and the design of these are still forthcoming. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna go back to the splash pad and fly to the promenade here. So flying to our next location, we see the parking lot over here and the perimeter of the bike playground. And you can see we are retaining a lot of the existing turf area where you can you lay down a blanket and have a picnic, but also adding planting areas and accent planting within the bike playground to break up those large turf areas too. So you can see the bike playground and the promenade leading to the entry plaza and community center. And then going inside the bike park or bike playground. The bike playground is, you can see we have a number of design features and obstacles that people have to navigate through and help them, learn how to ride a bike and scooter. So that kind of concludes our fly through. I'm going to pass it back to Sarah, where she's going to run through some questions back on mentee.com. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. So we're going to start some questions and answers, but we can always hop back to that 3D model if we need to. So just let us know. All right, can everyone see the screen again? I'll take silence as a yes. So back to Mentee. If you could pick up your second device or whatever you were polling with Mentee, and just tell us your favorite things about this plan. the bike playground, the community building, the picnic areas, splash pad, sports courts, or maybe something else. Cool. Lots of love for the splash pad. Very cool. All right. Community building has taken first place. Very cool. Awesome. Well, let's talk about it. Any other feedback of the design, likes, concerns? So at this point, you should be able to type it into the Mentee box and it will pop up here on the screen for everyone. You could also raise your hand in Zoom and Alex will be moderating that and we can call on you or type it in the chat.
So Sarah, we have a couple questions in the chat. David asked, what happens to the pool, the existing pool there?
So I might hand this off to Jenny or Anna Claudia, but I believe the pool is slated to be demolished. Is that correct?
That's correct. So right now the pool has so many issues from a constructability standpoint that it's going to cost far too much money for us to repair it. So the idea is for us to remove the pool and replace it with a different type of water play, like a splash pad or a mist pad.
Another question from Sharona is, can you show us how the walking flow would move from the community building to Levitt?
We could show from the community building to the basketball courts, that end of the park, but we don't have it modeled all the way to the Levitt Pavilion, unfortunately. So we have some things on the screen.
Yeah.
We just want to switch to that for a second.
Maybe you could show in the plan first, Sarah.
Sure.
Just what that pathway looks like.
Yeah, we could show you all along this pedestrian promenade. Unfortunately, we don't have anything kind of outside of these limits modeled.
Also, Finn raised his hand if you want to come off mute and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Alex and Sarah. Thanks for this. This is really helpful. I've been part of the neighborhood for about 12 years now, and my house backs up directly to the park where the proposed parking lot is going to be. And I know it looks like it's moved from the original plan a little further away from the houses. And I just want to be vocal in my concern for that. Seeing how the park has changed over the years and some of the activities that happen after hours at nighttime in the existing parking lots, and the thought of that being closer to my house, to my kids, is something that really, really concerns me. You know, obviously this park is going to help immensely. It's going to be wonderful for our community. Property values are going to continue to go up, which is great, but it ultimately will reduce the quality of life for those of us that are very close. So that's my biggest concern. That's really the reason that I'm here tonight. Everything else looks amazing. I'd really like to see the parking lot used to remain as green space, or potentially for more sport courts, futsal, basketball, pickleball, really anything but a parking lot. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for that comment. I know that is a big
an important element of this design. So just a couple of things. I think we are required to have, you know, a certain number of parking spots for accessibility. We are looking into what the recommended number of spaces are per use that you can see here on this plan is, and where those can overlap and where we can get some efficiencies to reduce the number of parking. A couple of things that we have tried to do in this plan, and I don't know if, hopefully you guys will be able to see me drawing, but there is some parking here currently that we removed in order to fit in some of these amenities. So this parking lot lost a good chunk of spaces. This parking lot was also supposed to connect here, but we tried to disconnect that in an effort to sort of reduce speeds and not let people just kind of fly through and have an exit. We also tried to reduce the width of this to reduce activities such as donuts. We got a really good comment previous to this that all of these cars are head facing this way, so the headlights would shine onto the adjacent neighborhood. So that's definitely something that we're going to incorporate, either flip it this way or perhaps think about just even parallel parking. But that is definitely something that is top of our minds and is a concern that we know is very important. So we will do everything we can to reduce the number of parking spots in this area.
We can return back to the board.
Okay.
See if there's any questions.
So there is a comment. It seems like the community building is not a recreation center at all, just a place for rentals and some small events. Yes, you're right. We probably shouldn't be using the word center. It's more of a community building. So it will have one big room that will be multifunctional. So it will act as the rental room. It will act as a place for training sessions. It will also act as a space that the community could rent out or have community meetings, but it's not a recreation center. That is correct. So we have a lot of good recommendations for sports courts, seeing pickleball, soccer, football, tennis. So we'll have to see what we can fit in this space. I think I saw a question about a skateboard park.
Yeah,
is that
Sarah,
right?
I was going to bring that up in the chat. Well, it wasn't a direct question. There has been mention of a skateboard park, both in the original plan and in people requesting that be looked at again.
Awesome. So I'm just going to flip back to the master plan. So yes, a skate park was recommended in the original master plan. It was actually recommended to be, am I still able to draw? I don't know if you can see this, right below the mountain bike park label is where the skate park was slated to be, with a little plaza and picnic shelter to function for that area of the park. That's not to say that we couldn't try to see if it would fit in the area that we are working in. However, the space is a little limited. And so that was not in the original scope for this area. So I think we'll just have to examine that a little further. I don't know if anyone from the city wants to add to that. Please do.
Sarah, I think you're doing a great job answering these questions. So thank you for leading the meeting. Just to add on, I would like to comment that all the ideas and suggestions we're getting today will definitely be taken into consideration, and we'll try to see what we can do in terms of spacing. But the master plan that was created for Ruby Hill is somewhat dictating kind of the basis of our design. And since that master plan was approved by council, we'll have to kind of stick within the realm of that master plan, but we will definitely and for sure continue to put all your suggestions in the chat and on Mentee.
So we got a comment here about the parking again, which I think is great. Why not have a one-way, the parallel parking or angle? That's totally something we'll look into. Generally I'm seeing some comments about taking away green space. So we'll be sure to try to maximize green space. I'm a landscape architect. I love green space. I promise y'all, fight to keep it in. Alex, anything you're seeing in the chat? Or if anyone raising their hand would like to ask a question?
There was a question about whether a dog park has ever been a part of the conversation. Also, if the sledding hills are being eliminated. So if you could talk to that.
Yeah. So the sledding, I'll answer the sledding hill question first. That is not being eliminated. So the rail park is really staying the same, and all of the areas where you can sled now are going to remain. This is just where the only thing that would be, I guess, impeding on that would be the community building. And sorry, what would the dog park was that?
Has it ever been part of the conversation as a potential program?
Not that I know of. I don't think it was in the master plan. I think the master plan might have been completed before dog parks gained popularity. So like Jenny said, everything that's being brought up tonight will absolutely be explored, but it has not been a consideration in the past. I think that's the first time we saw that. And
Sarah, I will add a little to that. Again, good evening, everyone. Jesus Arantia. I can't speak for in this particular work that's being worked on now, but there is a dog park in the works at Sanderson Gulch near Ruby Hill. And I know while they were looking at sites for throughout Southwest Denver to see where a dog park would work, they did look at Ruby Hill. I'm not sure if it was this particular site, but they did look at it and decided that Sanderson Gulch is a more viable option.
Thank you, Jesus. Anything in the chat, Alex?
Jesse asked, the diagram has an up in the clouds playground as being completed. Is it not? Is that part of this project?
So that has been completed. So that is the part of the playground, I believe, that goes out towards sort of that ridge. And correct me if I'm wrong if it hasn't been completed, but if it, I believe it has. If it hasn't, it is not a part of this project scope.
And then Elizabeth asked, what about walking trails around the park? Has that been considered?
Yeah, so I think that's also a really big thing that we've heard, and another important, that would hit on a lot of our goals and our vision for the park. So our scope of work is just this, pretty much this area. So in terms of connecting to larger walking loops or creating a larger walking loop, that is just out of our scope of work for this project in particular, but we will try to add to it, to connect it around this park wherever we can. But again, connecting to a larger network within the park is outside of our scope of work for this particular project.
Great. David asked, who can we speak with concerning the skateboard park feasibility?
Jennifer? Sorry to put you on the spot if you're not the right person.
No, that's okay. It's definitely more of a planning question than a design and construction question. And the question was, when is the master plan being updated? Is that correct?
No, the question was, who can we speak with concerning the skateboard park feasibility?
Okay, so we can definitely take in all comments and suggestions. I think the idea of tonight's meeting is to get feedback on the current concept. And if there's something not in there, like like the skate park. We'll definitely document all of those and then try our best to fit as many community wants and needs into a revised concept. So what you're doing right now in attendance of this meeting is perfect. And we'll obviously, if there's something that's being really highly requested by multiple people and it becomes kind of rises to the top, that's definitely something that we'll look at. However, we are bound to space limitations. So the scope of this project doesn't extend that far down into Levitt or to the Levitt Hills, and we don't want to impact the sledding hills or the skate park that's already existing. So we do have space constraints and budget constraints, but we're going to do the best that we can.
Great. Jace said that the only master plan available online for the park is from 2008. We've asked for the phase 1 and 2 build and update info and still haven't seen it. Is that available?
Well, we have it. We can make it available. Jennifer, will that be on the website?
Yeah, I know we did an update to the website a few weeks ago when we were starting to broadcast this public meeting. I do think there are ADA restrictions in terms of what documents we can upload. And one of those 2 documents I know wasn't quite up to terms in ADA content. So I think we're working with marketing on making sure that those documents meet those requirements and then they can be uploaded to the website.
Great. David asked, how many more phases for the park in general?
Jennifer, do you know the answer?
Can you repeat that one, Alex?
Yeah, David asked, how many more phases for the park in general?
This is, I think phase 3 is the last phase that I know of that's been documented in terms of implementing the master plan itself.
Great. Becca asked, will our suggestions be taken back to council for consideration and approval of it wasn't part of the master plan? Sorry, that.
Can you say that again, Alex?
Will our suggestions be taken back to council for consideration?
Oh, if it wasn't part of the original master plan.
If it wasn't part of the original master, yes, I believe that's what she's trying to say.
I'm going to throw it back to Jennifer.
Yeah, again, that's a planning question. I don't deal very much with council either. If Anna Claudia is on, she can probably answer that one.
Hi, everyone. I just got back here just in time to catch that question. So we do coordinate with City Council very closely with any additional programming that goes outside a master plan recommendation. City Council is present. Anita is a representative of City Council District 7. We are working very closely with Joel and Clark, and we do work with City Council in master plans implementations and any work involved in community engagement to such a important project like this. So this is a combined effort. It's something that we seek coordination, collaboration with the community as well as City Council. So it is something that we really strive for, and we are very proud to continue this work collaboration with the community and City Council to implement current phases of a master plan or any additional amenities that come forward as a recommended and supported amenity for the community that's not included in master plan. It goes both ways, existing and new ones. We do collaborate with City Council and the community.
Great. It seems like there's a couple comments about security and lighting. Maybe we can touch on that.
Yeah, is that in the Mentee?
It's in the Mentee and also the chat.
Oh, okay. Could you read the chat question maybe then?
There wasn't a specific question, but people were asking about
chatter. So yeah, so we will make sure that there is adequate lighting and that the park is safe. from that standpoint. What was the other thing, Alex? I'm sorry.
Lighting, cameras, security cameras, just security in general.
Jennifer, I know that we do have a security consultant. Do you want to speak a little bit more to that, maybe?
What was the specific question, Alex?
Just in general security, and what is the capacity of that?
You know, we've had several requests citywide to install security cameras in a lot of the parks. And I know in terms of our department, design and construction, planning, design and construction, most of those questions are turned over to our ranger districts. And I know at least in another park that I've recently worked on, we haven't had the capacity, manpower, or budget really to implement a whole lot of cameras. But I do know it's a big concern kind of citywide, not just in Ruby Hill. But all that being said, if you do have a very specific concern and you would like to have more ranger presence in Ruby Hill or whatever your neighborhood park may be, I would encourage you to reach out via 311 to ask for more ranger presence in the park.
So I see Jackie is getting a lot of claps in the chat. So I just want to emphasize her statement. A bigger cohesive plan is needed rather than segments. Parking by Levitt makes more sense. A walking trail makes sense, and limited parking near homes makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I think I agree. And I think that everyone on the line would agree with that. Unfortunately, just this project in particular, those things are sort of out of the scope of work for this. But I think that, not to speak for DPR and planning, but those are good comments for them to hear for the future. But again, not something that I personally or design workshop can speak to at this meeting. I'm sorry, that's probably not the answer you were looking for.
Sarah, there was, and not to cut in Alex, because I know you're monitoring the chat, but could you define the scope of work one more time, just so that everyone on the call?
Absolutely. So it's really, I guess I'll drop, well, let's go back again. So it really kind of stops at that parking lot. And I'm sorry, I can't really zoom in here. Sort of encompasses the rail yard, and then around to the picnic pavilion parking, hugs the edge of that road, and goes back to where the park ends.
I have a question here from Megan. Many of our neighbors cannot safely access the park, including elderly, parents with strollers, people in wheelchairs cannot safely use the park. We have been asking for a comprehensive multimodal accessibility network plan for the park for years between DOTI and DPR. When can we expect that this will be delivered?
If Anna Claudia's on, she probably has a better idea of what projects are slated for the West District, particularly Ruby Hill, in the next 5 years or so.
I am not really well versed what is on the pipeline for a DOTI perspective, because this is a different agency and I don't want to speak about a timeline that we are not in control of. So if something that we can follow up as far as a DOTI insights of what we can improve around the park as far as the public right-of-way access to the park, I'm glad to follow up with that question. As far as what is happening within the park, this project itself does improve a lot of accessibility and a lot of circulation. There is currently existing conditions that we noted as improvements that we hear from the community. So we hope we can alleviate within this project area a lot of these community concerns. But as far as DOTI, unfortunately, we need to follow up with a better update from someone representing this area from Dottie that can speak about their projects.
I see a comment in the chat that says, so it sounds like the design is all wrapped up and comments around parking and such don't matter. And that's not true. That's what this meeting is for. So I think we already got a lot of good feedback about the parking lot and perhaps less of it, perhaps a different style of parking, angled parking or a one-way street, parking in a different location. So I think those are all things we're going to take into consideration. We've got some feedback about the splash pad location and if we can locate it closer to the playground. I think that's a great idea and definitely something that we'll explore. So keep the comments coming because the design's not all wrapped up. Alex, do you see anything else?
There's a lot of comments here. Some people echoing that a lot of these changes are awesome. I'm very excited, but it doesn't feel like the community isn't really being heard with some of our major concerns. It feels like we are only able to put in fluff input, such as what type of sports courts we want, but everything else is final.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot of input for the larger master plan maybe, rather than this, which I know a lot of the elements from this park came from that master plan, but I hate to be a broken record, but anything sort of outside of what we see on the screen is not really something that we have control over tonight.
Craig Coronado here from Parks and Recreation. I just wanted to, what I've heard, I think a lot of the concerns around parking and multimodal access are in the interest of reducing the amount of pavement and enhancing the green space in the park. And I think we hear folks loud and clear. I think one thing is the plan that you see here does look like it has a lot of pavement, but we do have a group of landscape architects that are working on a park design here, and I can guarantee you that it's going to be greener than it is when it's done than it looks now. That said, you know, I think the multimodal access, the more comprehensive look at concerns from the neighborhood and getting into the park, we'll use guidance from Denver Moves, which is Dottie's and the city's really plan for multimodal access as guidance for this. And I think we'll want to go back and look at some of the recommendations there. That's a pretty high level plan, so it doesn't get into the details of what happens at Ruby Hill Park. But I think there may be some guidance that we can use to look at ways that we can reduce the need for parking here. But as Sarah has mentioned, we have to design to code. So we have to, you know, make sure that there is adequate parking for the facilities that are there. But it can be done in different ways, I think, that are sensitive to all of your concerns.
Yeah, Teresa said my primary parking concern is related to safety. Those parking lots are not a safe place to be at night. Having those right behind someone's backyard would be dangerous for people living in those homes.
Alex, can you read Brandy's comment?
Yes. Brandy wrote, the road that connects the Upper Picnic Pavilion parking lot near Florida and Osage to the playground / community parking lot has been closed to vehicle traffic since COVID, and that change has been so amazing. Without vehicle traffic through that area of the park, folks are able to utilize that wonderful flat ash green space safely without the danger of vehicles racing through the park. With the addition of the proposed parking lot on the west side of the park, vehicle traffic will be reintroduced, and that will most definitely reduce the safety of park goers.
So echoing the parking concerns.
Jace wrote, parks spent the last year getting cars out of parks around the city, and I think through surveying, you heard that we wanted to continue that trend. The park needs more parking, just not in this area. with most of the heavy activity taking place in the lower part of the park, that is the best place to put it. Elizabeth wrote, so no options for a full swimming pool despite seeming extremely heavy use when I've been there due to budget limitations.
I'll let DPR handle that one.
So some feedback about the pool usage. We actually pulled our data of the past couple years of the data that we received from our pool aquatic group. Is that despite of the perception that the pool is highly used, it wasn't one of the highest used in this area. And it's definitely a lower number from being a regional park. So unfortunately, the data is undisputable, because we do keep a log of everyone that comes to our pools, and that data was taken in consideration as well. And the new programming for this area, removing the pool to accommodate a year-round splash pad, is also a master plan recommendation.
David asks, where are the bathrooms? Winter has a temporary bathroom. So this will have 2 fully accessible bathrooms with running water and electricity located in this community building. I believe they will be all season. Did anyone feel like they didn't have their comment read aloud or have a question that they want to touch on?
And Sarah, we should just remind people that if they're inclined to and feel comfortable, you are also welcome to raise your hand or unmute yourself, turn on your screen. There's a lot of your neighbors here that have similar sentiments. So you should also feel free, we want to be more conversational with neighbors and picking that up, but we want to make sure that people feel comfortable both putting their comments, and we capture it in the chat, or vocally if that is something that you choose. And then, although I won't say everything in Spanish, I will just remind people, si hablan español, todavía tenemos un intérprete aquí con nosotros. Si quiere levantar la mano, si quiere poner algo en el chat, nosotros capturamos. Otra vez, no podemos tener el intérprete haciendo esto simultáneamente, pero si queremos poder capturar en cualquier de los idiomas que la gente se sienta cómodo. Thank you, Sarah. I just wanted to remind people that we do have that functionality if people are comfortable.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesus. Megan has a question. It looks like a lot of trees are being added here. Can DPR make sure to add trees into this space? DPR has been cutting down lots of trees and not replanting any due to concerns around soil contamination.
I love trees and I would love to add as many as possible, but we do, as Jace mentions in the chat, there are some limitations due to the complication of this site being a landfill. And so as far as maintenance goes, I think I won't speak for DPR if they want to add to that or provide a little more information on that. But we'll try to preserve as many existing trees as possible and add trees where we are able to.
Yeah, I can definitely get a follow-up with a forestry team that is in charge of replacing the trees that do not make it long-term or they are compromised. They do have a program that they go around the city and in quadrants and have in our yearly basis a goal to replace the trees. And they are in charge of replacing the trees, the dead trees in this park as well. I can follow up and ask them where we at in the timeline and when we should expect some replanting in Ruby Hill, but they are our champions and they are pretty good what they do, ensuring that we continue to expand our urban canopy in parks and in our roads as well. And they're very passionate about trees and his goal to maintaining our urban very much. So
7276
with you guys on that.
I see a comment from Sharona. My understanding is that more trees would buffer some of the sound coming from Levitt into the neighborhood. And yes, that is correct. So actually evergreen trees do a better job at absorbing sound than deciduous trees.
I said I want to echo strong some words there. Okay.
And sorry. And berms also absorb a lot of sound. I think Jace made a point in the comment that it might not be enough. And so again, we'll definitely explore moving the parking, looking at different configurations of the parking, because I understand that that isn't a total barrier between the neighborhood and the activity in the park.
Are there any questions on the board that we can go to?
We got some love for year-round bathrooms. Some more comments sort of outside of the scope of work. Are there any sustainability and resiliency components that are included? So we actually do have a sustainability consultant as part of our team. And so while this project isn't big enough for us to need to meet any type of LEED certification, or actually, go after and obtain the legit certification, we do have certain sustainability metrics that we will be working towards, I believe, as part of the Denver Green Print system. But if DPR wants to expand on that at all, please do so.
I'd add that we are required to do water quality as part of this. So any of the stormwater runoff that comes off the new facilities will be treated in a sustainable way. So that'll be part of the landscape too, and it will also help sustain the landscape and reduce the irrigation water need.
Great. Sharona commented, still hoping for a little storage space for the community garden chipper in the community building if possible.
Yes, Sharona, we will definitely try to get some space for community storage. The building is not designed yet, and so we have some flexibility to push and pull there, I think.
And if I missed your question, feel free to type it again in the chat. I apologize.
Yeah, so does anyone else have anything that they want to add or feel like maybe we missed their comment?
Sarah, I want to bring up a question that was asked early in the meeting on the court surfaces, simply because we haven't been able to cover that. There's been a lot of other items brought up, but Anita is asking if the community decides on a basketball court and or tennis courts, what will the material be? Will you all be looking at concrete, asphalt for those courts?
Yeah, so that's yet to be designed. I think tennis courts would receive the appropriate special paving treatment. It's kind of different from concrete or basketball courts. As far as whatever sport court or field it ends up being, it will definitely be designed to code. and it will be something that is durable. Whether or not it's asphalt or concrete, I don't think we haven't dug into those details yet.
And then just on that with the courts, we got quite a bit of comments, and I'm sure it'll be captured, but for soccer, futsal, pickleball, so some of the sports that weren't necessarily shown or on the design.
Yeah, that's great feedback. I think what we'll probably do is see what fits. But if you have something in particular that you'd really like to advocate for, put it in the chat again.
Yeah, there's a couple questions about the building. Brandy wrote, since I live so close to the park, I rarely have a need to utilize the bathrooms there. I could totally be wrong, but it seems like the bathrooms at the upper pavilion parking lot are pretty much always locked. I know folks have vandalized those bathrooms like crazy over the years. I'm wondering how we will keep the proposed bathrooms safe from rampant vandalism.
So I'm going to toss this to DPR. Maybe they can speak more to operations and maintenance better than I can.
What was the question again?
How will we keep the oh, I'm sorry, Alex. How will we keep the proposed bathrooms safe from vandalism?
That's a very good question. This area over here, once it is open, we foresee a lot of eyes on it. We definitely will need to coordinate with our rangers. What will be the increased capacity for them to support this area. We unfortunately cannot prevent all vandalism. We can't prevent we cannot prevent entirely, but we can work on those when they happen, and then we can work with our rangers to help us keep the area and the park goers to continue to use the park safely with their presence there. So it's not something that I have an answer for you guys today, but it's definitely something that we will keep in mind. And as we move along with the design, we can continue to coordinate with our rangers and get more clarity how they're going to support this area.
I would just add that the difference between this area and the picnic pavilion area is this area is going to be more likely occupied when the park is open, as it serves a community purpose. The picnic pavilion is only occupied during events or planned picnics, group picnics. So it's more likely to be not overseen by people. So I think this area would be less likely to that type of vandalism, we hope.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah.
A couple of extra comments here in the Mentee. So questions on vandalism, perhaps worth adding security cameras into the new infrastructure. I think that's definitely something that our architects are going to explore. As I think Jennifer spoke to that a little earlier. Is there an option for a community bulletin board, perhaps on the community building? It could be a great way to share neighborhood news or park events. I think that's a great idea. And we could make sure that our architectural consultant is aware of this and maybe think of some creative ways to have some type of durable community bulletin board incorporated into that design. Additional bicycle parking would be helpful for those using programmed elements and for those who bike to concerts. Absolutely, 100%. Additional bicycle parking will definitely be incorporated.
Megan recommended that we explore if a soccer field could be added, considering the neighborhood demographics.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely look at seeing where a soccer field could fit in this area. I think we've heard soccer a lot, so we'll explore we're capturing everything that you've written in the chat, and we're capturing everything that has been suggested on Mentee. So we'll be able to go through and refer back to all of this.
Earlier, Sarah, someone had mentioned a pump track as a viable option for beginning skateboarders and cyclists. Not sure if that was an option that that was looked at or is being considered as a possibility in this area.
Yeah, yep. So a pump track will definitely be part of that bicycle playground. So a pump track is, yes, I won't go on with the answer is yes, it will be part of the bicycle playground.
Do you want to explain what that is for people that may not be as familiar with what a pump track is?
Yeah, so it won't be a typical pump track like you see in a mountain bike park. So I think everything will be a more durable material, a more hardscape material in this bicycle playground, but there will be undulating topography and I guess, hills and that sort of thing incorporated into this to get kids kind of used to that.
Sarah, can you talk about the survey that's going to be posted on Denver Parks Project's website?
Yeah, so the survey is going to be short and sweet. It's really most of the questions you saw today, kind of a little bit of demographics questions, and then ranking your favorite elements of the park, and then a lot of open feedback of the design like we're doing now. So it's nothing complicated. It shouldn't take a long time. But basically what will happen is we can take this Mentimeter presentation and put it on the DPR website, and then people will be able to take it and participate throughout the presentation at their own pace and answer the questions. And then all of that will be aggregated. So we'll have that information. Thank you to Finn for sharing this resource. We will definitely check that out.
Would you be able to add some of the most suggested features from this meeting and incorporate the responses into your survey? So it includes skate park, pool, walking paths, etc.
Yeah, we can add some of the features that it would be viable to put into this park. But again, I believe a pool is off the table. And so DPR, Jenny, Craig, please correct me if I'm wrong. And then anything outside of our scope of work, walking paths, again, we can't address in this specific project. But I think that's a great idea to incorporate some of the comments that we received today into this survey. So we will absolutely do that.
It looks like the community garden will be turning 10 years old next year, and Sharona would like us to have them to have a celebration, most likely in August for Denver Days. Perhaps we can have your team show up for the celebration and do some questions/answers and have a table with information.
Is that August next year?
Yes, it would be August of next year. So Sarah, you may want to talk a little bit about the timeline of the project and seeing where we might be at that time, to see if there is something that could be coordinated with the celebration.
Yeah, that would be great to have that overlap of park events. So if everything goes according to plan, we'll be checking in with you guys again in early 2022, so early next year after the new year. We will, check back in with our revisions to the concept plan based off the information that we get from this meeting. We will then after having workshop number 2, continue to refine our plan a bit throughout the spring of 2022. And then we'll be checking in with you guys again sometime summer 2022. So Sharona, that just might work.
And then going back to the survey, Elizabeth is asking, maybe if the survey can be set up to collect the feedback, both for the specific scope of work and for general comments on the park that might be relevant for an updated park master plan.
I think she goes on to say, I understand the limitations of government contracting, but most people don't know where to plug in relevant input to have it be useful. Yeah. Jennifer, Craig, do you guys, or Anna Claudia, want to speak to that?
Can you repeat that for me one more time, Sarah?
In response to the explanation of the survey, Elizabeth says, maybe if the survey can be set up to collect the feedback, both for this specific scope of work and for the general comments on the park, that might be relevant for an updated park master plan. I understand the limitations of government contracting, but most people don't know where to plug in relevant input to have it be useful.
So she's asking for all comments, regardless of whether they've been targeted towards this project or the master plan, be captured somewhere so that we can hopefully update the master plan in the near future.
Yeah, comments for and Elizabeth, correct me if I'm butchering your question, but collecting questions. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and say it?
A lot of us are sharing feedback that you're saying this isn't part of the scope of work. I totally understand, and I appreciate your limitations, but we also don't know where we're supposed to send the relevant comments, and there's a forum where you are soliciting input from people who are most interested in the park and its future design. So it seems like it would be really helpful to capture those and figure out how to channel them. I don't know if that's an updated master park plan, but into some future documents, because it feels like a lot of the most important stuff says, no, not part of this scope of work, don't really care. And that's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, and I think that happens on quite a few of these public meetings where we have such a narrow scope of work, but a lot of the community members, your concerns, and they're very valid, are outside of, unfortunately, the project that we're working on. And Anna Claudia can chime in on this too, because she does a lot more work with the community and the planning side. But I do believe that all of these comments, regardless of whether they're pertinent to the scope of this project in particular or Ruby Hill in totality, will be collected. And if there's larger concerns like those that have been brought up about parking and safety and security, which pertain a lot to lighting, I think a lot of those will be documented. And then the way our projects are kind of filtered down, funneled down, is that they're placed on kind of a 5 or 7 year plan. And those plans are dictated by budget, council approval, and a lot of other factors. But I do think that Anna Claudia will take, and the planning team will take, a lot of what's been said today and start factoring that and adding it to their databases for future projects that will take place in Ruby Hill.
Okay, awesome. So would Anna Claudia be able to coordinate Sarah or whoever's managing the survey so that when you get feedback that falls outside of your specific scope of work for this project, like it's going into the system that is capturing the data where Anna Claudia can use it?
I only caught some of that because there was a lot of feedback, but
I think she said, can we add that to the survey, maybe as like one question to capture things that are outside of the scope of work of this project, since the information from the survey is being collected for this part of the city.
So Sarah, tell me how easily that's done.
And Sarah, I'm wondering, and just so I know there's been some questions on the survey. Again, Jesus Arate, Community Engagement Specialist with Denver Parks and Recreation. There's been questions on the survey. We will be uploading both the video and the survey onto denvergov.org. It will be the Mentee survey that that many of you have taken tonight. So we do ask that you share that with your networks. I'm wondering if that is captured in the last question that's more of an open-ended question of what else about the project, and then knowing which projects aren't within the scope, working with planning to see where they do fit into a larger plan.
Yeah, I think it would be quite easy just to add an open-ended question where people could list things like they have tonight. And that would just be a separate question that we could then forward on to you guys. Sorry to come up with that on the spot.
I don't think there's any harm in doing that, Sarah. And then I would reiterate that one of the best ways to get your concerns routed to the most appropriate person is to submit 311 requests, which you can either do via phone or email. I know those 311s, at least in our department, are taken very seriously and are tabulated and taken account for, or accounted for and taken into account when we start planning for future projects. So definitely fill out the survey and then also submit those via 311.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we conclude? We do have a bit of time left. If anyone has anything else they want to add. I guess we can go back to this Mentee and see if we got anything. And this kind of sound like we are.
Scott mentioned that the comments link in Mentee only goes to this current slide now. Is it possible to continue to comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my fault. So now I'm back on this page, so you should be able to reply or type it into the Mentee. I like the giant slip and slide idea personally, although that could get a bit dangerous. So I don't think I'm seeing any new comments or new feedback. So I guess speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, not forever, just until our next workshop. And also you can take the survey. So I totally take that back.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was going to say is, again, take the survey, the share, and make sure that we get all the input from the people in the community.
And Jesse, yes, there will be the next iteration of this design, I believe, will be presented at the next meeting. All right, any closing remarks? Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for having so much enthusiasm. I think that we got a lot of great feedback tonight. Well, thank you. I guess we'll close it up unless Jesus, Santa Claudia, Craig, or Jennifer has anything they want to add.
No, I just say thanks, Sarah, and for being our MC. You did a great job.
All right. Well, have a great night, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for all the great input. We appreciate it.